have a residential riser manifold, which includes a drain and test valve, a water flow switch, and a system pressure gauge. And this is all fed off of your domestic water supply. The residential shutoff valve, this is Tyco's RSV1. It's installed in the piping network, so it serves both domestic and residential fire protection needs. The way it works is most of your water, all your water is going to your domestic usage, your bathrooms, your kitchen sink, your laundry, until such time as there's a fire, in which case then all of the water is diverted to the sprinkler system through an automatic actuation of the valve. This is what it looks like on the inside. There's a piston assembly, which is forced down by pressure, water pressure, keeps that closed and allows for that flow of water to your domestic piping. When a sprinkler operates, that pressure inside that, the fire sprinkler side of the piping is decreased. That allows the piston assembly to move upward, which now allows for the diversion of water into the fire sprinkler piping network. And you can see this is how I'll animate it for you. And you can see in the fire, when we block off that port leading to the domestic water piping. The riser manifold, very, very similar to our commercial RM1. It needs to have a drain that's at least 1 inch in diameter and a shutoff valve. There has to be a test connection to allow for testing of that alarm flow device. It's how you're going to know the sprinklers are activated. And a local water flow alarm needs to be provided on all systems. And that, in particular, the water flow alarm device, needs to be installed per NFPA 13. You can use a lot of different piping materials. You can use steel, kind of expensive, heavy, needs to be adequately supported. You can use copper, can be expensive, depending on how extensive your system is. You can use PEX, much more economical. You can use CPVC, which is chlorinated polyvinyl chloride. But if you do use plastic pipe, it has to be listed for use in fire sprinkler systems. For your 13D, this is your 1 and 2 family and manufactured housing as well as townhome standalone systems. You can have standalone or you can have mixed use systems. A standalone system is where your sprinkler system, the above ground piping serves only fire sprinklers. You can see where we have our city water main coming into our property and we split. In one direction, we go through the water meter and into our domestic water usage. The other side, we go through a backflow preventer, through a pressure relief valve. There's a drain and test connection, and then we feed our sprinkler system. And we've identified it in the animation or the drawing on the right-hand side in different color codes. The blue representing our domestic water, cold water, the red representing our domestic hot water, and then the orange is the plastic CPVC sprinkler piping. You can have a multi-purpose system, and that feeds both your domestic and your sprinkler fire protection needs. So it's common piping throughout the dwelling unit. And it uses 2 different types of piping, Blaze Master CPVC pipe and Flow Guard Gold, feeding those utilities and the faucets and things like that in the bathrooms, in the kitchen, and so forth. That brings us to our next poll, which of course is going to be answered in the chat once again. So poll number 2 is: any plastic pipe used in sprinkler systems is required to be A, painted, B, listed, C, rolled, or D, grooved. Please enter your answers into the chat. And I'm glad to see we get everybody back. I have another colleague on the line. Matt Page has joined us too. Matt's another business development manager here in the US. And so use the chat, either answering the letter or you can type in the response. So quite a few people commenting. 1, 2, 3. We've got 12 of you participating in the poll. Just a few more people and we'd have everybody. We're looking at 3, 4, maybe 5 people. Remember, polling is monitored. So you want to get credit, you got to be on the poll. Okay, excellent. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on. So let's just quickly talk about the response of sprinklers. So all residential sprinklers need to be quick response or fast response sprinklers. So NFPA 13 defines a quick response sprinkler as a type of spray sprinkler that has a thermal element, whether it be a metal link or a glass bulb, with a response time index of 50 or less and is listed as a quick response sprinkler for its intended use. So RTI is a measurement of the responsiveness of a thermal element to heat. The lower the RTI, the faster that sprinkler is going to respond to heat. If you get a sprinkler over an RTI over 80, it's considered standard response. Under 50, quick response or fast response. NFPA 13 goes on to define a residential sprinkler as a type of fast response sprinkler having a thermal element with an RTI of 50 or less. And then we've highlighted here the information that's most specific. It's been specifically investigated for its ability to enhance survivability in the room of fire origin, and that is listed for use in the protection of dwelling units. And Emily points out, everybody got the right answer in the poll. That's fantastic. So what that means is that if you're installing a residential sprinkler system, you can't just use any quick response or fast response sprinkler. It has to be a residential sprinkler, and all residential sprinklers that are listed and approved for use as a residential sprinkler will have an RTI of 50 or less. We want them to work fast. Faster they work, faster they can cool that gas layer. And this just shows you, I mentioned this very early on about how they work in the high wall wetting. You can see our standard spray sprinkler, you get that umbrella pattern, that parabola as the sprinkler is discharging, whether it be an upright sprinkler or a pendant sprinkler. And whether it be a standard spray sprinkler or an early suppression fast response sprinkler, the spray patterns are very similar. But for a residential sprinkler, where we're trying to achieve that high wall wetting, you see that the discharge is much flatter and angled upward toward the ceiling level and then outward towards the walls. And you note that there's an area almost directly below the sprinkler that gets very little water. And that's okay. Why? Because most of our combustibles, most of our furnishings in our homes is located against the walls. It's not right there in the middle of the room or across the whole room area like it would be in a commercial property. So, and again, that high wall wetting, we're trying to cool that gas layer as rapidly as possible. So this just shows you graphically what it looks like, a residential sprinkler versus your standard coverage spray patterns, and where it's hitting the wall or the distance from the ceiling level down when it hits that far wall. You'll see for our sprinkler where the deflector is 2 inches below the ceiling level in a 20 by 20 foot room, which is a pretty big area. You know, maybe it's a very large living room or family room, or maybe it's a basement. You can see even at the furthest reach of the sprinkler, 10 feet away, we're getting water just beyond 24 inches below the ceiling level. And as we get closer to that sprinkler deflector, it gets much closer to the ceiling level. Whereas if we take a standard spray K5.6 half-inch orifice pendant sprinkler that would be used to protect, say, an auditorium or a classroom in a school or a mercantile establishment, you can see as we move out away from the center line of the sprinkler, our distance where we're hitting the walls is a much lower point from the ceiling level. And so that's why commercial sprinklers wouldn't be as effective in terms of that life safety attribute. Now, that's not to say that we don't get a life safety benefit from commercial sprinklers. Absolutely do. But the residential sprinkler is most specifically designed just for protecting human life. Oops, I'm trying to do something with a laser pointer. So for testing, There's an awful lot of development that goes into sprinklers in general and the residential sprinkler in particular. You need the manufacturer, including Tyco, need to test and then submit those sprinklers to recognized testing agencies like UL and FM approvals, so they can go through their own series of tests to validate what's been done at the manufacturer's research and development site. So what you're looking at is a photograph on the right and a layout on the left of Tyco's test area, where we start the fire the furthest away, the farthest corner from the sprinkler located in the room. We build a small wood crib, and we have plywood on metal frames, which acts as a simulation of furniture. That's the target. You're looking for heat against those materials. And so we start the fire in the wood crib, and then as the fire develops, enough heat will be generated that the ceiling level sprinkler will operate, and it will cool that ceiling gas layer, which is being measured by thermocouples at the ceiling level. And this just shows you just a photograph of, I believe this is a photograph. Yeah, maybe it's a video. Let's see. Oh, it is a video. You learn something new every day. So I'll play this video if it wants to play for me. There we go. We've sped it up a little bit. It's time lapse. You can see the fire developing. And we'll play this, the fire get beat. That noise you're hearing, that's water escaping. You can see the discharge now onto the fire, and you see the fire growth starting to decay as we control that heat release rate and cool that ceiling gas layer. Oh, it comes equipped with noise and everything. And you can see that the fire is nearly knocked all the way back. And then they'll do other tests as well involving higher levels of combustibles that would be more commonplace. Again, very limited though in their amount, to ensure that the sprinkler is going to operate as intended. So they need to be responsive. And so to measure that, on average, a fire sprinkler, the initial discharge is around 25 gallons of water per minute. And that's because of the initial pressure that the water is being discharged through that sprinkler. The maximum temperature, and they're using an average human height of 5'3" from the floor. The max temperature that's allowed is 200 degrees Fahrenheit or 93 degrees Celsius. But you cannot have a temperature of higher than 130 degrees F or 54 C for 2 minutes. So that's the max duration of those high temperatures. And the max temperature that's allowed at the ceiling before you get that cooling effect is 600 degrees Fahrenheit or 316 degrees Celsius. So that's the criteria that the residential sprinkler has to meet or exceed. So that'll bring us to, I think this is our final poll question. How far down from the ceiling are residential fire sprinklers required to spray? Is it A, 28, B, 36, C, 40, or D, 53 inches? And I'm sorry, this is all in English units, not in metric for those of our friends from Canada. But you know what? We're trying, one country at a time to get people to convert to the English units. It's not the other way around. And I understand people will tell me that metric's easy. It's all about tens. I don't know. Still don't get it. Liking the answers so far in that chat. Keep them coming. Seem to have had a momentary lapse in people wanting to participate in the poll here. Let's see what we got. No, actually, there's quite a few. I guess I wasn't looking. One. Only about 10 of you or so have participated in the chat this time around. Probably figure it's the last one. They're not going to pay attention. Well, all of you have answered correctly. Correct answer is A, 28 inches. So that's a good thing. Again, it's that high wall wetting. Can't stress it enough. So we have a couple of different types and styles of residential sprinklers. You can go to our website, www.tyco-fire.com, and see our entire line of residential sprinklers, along with all of our other products, and along with our technical data sheets regarding those residential sprinklers. They're available in exposed or flush, both pendant and sidewall, exposed, recessed, both pendant and sidewall, and concealed, both sidewall and pendant. So showing you what flush and recessed exposed sprinklers would look like when they're installed on the wall. Picture of a nice, beautiful kitchen. Not a big fan of that island because you really can't sit around it, but other than that, it's a beautiful kitchen. You can see the concealed sprinklers at the ceiling level, a lot of track lighting or spotlighting in that space. How they work, the concealed sprinkler, two different parts. You have your support cup. Your sprinkler is contained within the support cup. Then you have your cover plate, which is a soldered plate onto a retaining ring. That retaining ring gets screwed into the support cup. They are not mix and match. The cover plate is specific to the concealed sprinkler, so they have to be from the same manufacturer, and they have to be for use with the appropriate style and number, sprinkler identification number. And it's my turn to have issues. We'll show you a quick video of concealed pendant sprinkler activating. This was done in the lab. This is not a proper installation. It's exposed piping. There is no ceiling. It's just the concealed sprinkler hanging down below the exposed piping. It'll be an individual with a handheld torch heating up the cover plate, which is going to be rated at 135 degrees Fahrenheit. The link for the concealed sprinkler, so it can actuate, is 165 degrees Fahrenheit. You can see the guide pins allow the deflector to drop below what would be the ceiling level. Metal link operates, water discharges. There are a couple of things you need to understand regarding recessed and concealed sprinklers. It does affect the sprinkler sensitivity in that there is a little bit of a thermal lag from the response of the sprinkler relative to an exposed sprinkler, an exposed pendant sprinkler on a ceiling. So our recessed sprinklers, they have a similar thermal response as if we installed a pendant sprinkler 8 inches below a smooth, unobstructed ceiling. Concealed sprinklers as if we installed a pendant sprinkler 12 inches below a smooth, unobstructed ceiling. In the great scheme of things, it's not that significant a time delay to be meaningful. So we just have to point it out, though, that they will not operate at exactly the same time as an exposed pendant sprinkler. Now, what can be painted? Because, people install sprinklers, whether it be in a commercial property or residential property, they buy the sprinkler, they have it installed, and then they decide, you know what, I'm going to change the decor. I want to change the color of the room, the walls, the ceiling, whatever it might be. And so the questions get asked, hey, what can I paint? Can I paint the sprinkler? Can I paint the escutcheon that goes around the sprinkler? What about the cover plate? And the answer to all of those is no, no, no. You are not allowed to paint any part of the sprinkler. All the sprinkler paint is applied at the factory. Now, most of these are going to come in a white paint color, but there are options available by consulting our website. You can get different paint colors. Oh, look, another poll. Who knew? And we're almost done, folks. Not that many slides left to go. So our fourth poll, and this should be our final poll. And it asks you to remember something we talked about at the very beginning or close to the beginning. And Andy's already on it, as is Emily and Bruce. I feel like I'm on Romper Room calling out the names. Those of you of a certain age might remember that. How long do residential sprinklers give occupants to escape the occupancy? And so far, so good. Everybody's paying attention today. This is awesome. For a beautiful July afternoon, or at least a beautiful July afternoon here in Rhode Island. One of the few beautiful July days we've had this summer. Had some really odd weather here in Rhode Island and southeastern New England. A lot of overcast days, had some hot days, humid days. I dabble in meteorology too, so we can have a little conversation about the weather. My coworkers are always asking me, what's the weather going to be? I say, take a look outside. You tell me. Let's see. We seem to have really dropped off in the last couple of polls, but that's okay. I don't take any of this personally. Okay, so we do have a number of products. This shows you all of them. We have the TY 3934. We have the 4234. The numbers represent our sprinkler identification number. The numbering order tells you the orifice size, the response, the characteristics of the sprinkler. We have pendant, we have recessed pendant, and a dome plate concealed sprinkler. Concealed sprinklers are good, especially if you're installing them in an area where children might be playing ball in the house, even though they're not supposed to. Minimizes the risk of damage to the fusible element. You'll see that all of these exclusively utilize a glass bulb, very thin, 3mm bulb. No difference between a glass bulb and a metal link other than the material. We have our LF2 pendant sprinklers, available both as a concealed sprinkler and dome plate concealed, and you'll see that those are for wet systems only. We have sidewall sprinklers available, including concealed sidewall. We do have dry residential sprinklers, recessed pendant, recessed sidewall, flat plate concealed, and dome concealed. Some are installed from the ceiling level into the protected space where you're heating the space above. Others are extended through a vertical wall from a heated space, and the sprinkler would be positioned in the unheated space. And then we have recessed pendant, dry type, wet and dry sprinkler systems, and horizontal sidewall, dry type for wet systems. And this just shows you that you do need to be cognizant of the exposed barrel length. That's based on the anticipated coldest temperature in your unheated space versus the average temperature or ambient temperature in your heated space. And that takes us to the end of the webinar. So just a little over an hour, including our little bit of technical glitch, and appreciate you bearing with us and coming back. That's really the key thing. You came back. Clarice has just posted her contact information in the chat. So feel free to copy that down. Talia posted a link to the assessment in the chat. Seth Wood, if you're on the East Coast of the US, reach out to Seth Wood. If you're in Canada, reach out to Clarice. Matt, I believe, is the western part of the United States. Oh, there you go. There's Matt Page, Western US. If he posts his contact info, if he doesn't, feel free to contact us at training@tight. Oh, there you go. There's Matt's email and phone number. So some resources for you, not only for residential projects, but also for commercial projects. They are great resources. And we've posted the link to the assessment several times. So feel free to copy and paste that to your desktop. Talia's going to send out an email, if she hasn't already, to each of you with that link to the assessment, along with a copy of the slide deck. Check your spam folder if you don't receive that in, say, the next 15 minutes or so, because sometimes her emails go to spam. And then you have 24 hours from the start time. So by 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time tomorrow, Friday, to complete that assessment. and there's no reason why you shouldn't get a passing score and then be awarded a certificate giving you 0.1 CEU for today's webinar. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us. Appreciate your patience with us, and look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the rest of your summer, and hope to see you again soon. You're welcome, Mark. You're welcome, Emily. Anytime, Clarice. You're welcome, Andy.